Hi there, Liberty Band students. Mr. Pendon here, and I'm going to teach you how you should be practicing when you're working on your warm-ups or technical exercises in this class. So first thing we want to do is make sure we just load them up. I'll always attach these as PDFs onto the classroom, and I'm playing the alto saxophone, so I'm going to load up my alto saxophone. The next thing you'll notice is that I have my metronome up because it is always important. You always want to practice with a metronome when you can, because it is essential on helping you build a steady beat of time and to make sure that you're really playing things accurately with your fingers. So the first thing that we're going to look at right here is we are going to start with our long tones. And the long tones are the first thing we do because the instrument and your body is cold. You haven't built your muscles up yet. So you have fermatos over here. You just want to hold these notes as long as you can with a big full sound and focusing on your sound, trying to make the most beautiful sound you can. Really listening to my sound, trying to make sure it's staying steady so it doesn't sound wavery or weak like this. Do you hear the difference between the first and the second? We want big full sound, we want steady moving air, and you just go note by note, and I have you going up and then down. And we're just playing around with the ranges. The next exercise you have is the chromatic steady. This one you want to make sure you have your fingering chart out for. These are always going to be notes that I want you to figure out on your own and to make sure that you know the fingerings for. And so really helpful, if you don't know these notes by heart, have the fingering chart up next to you so that you can look those notes up. As with any exercise, I want to choose a tempo that I'm going to start off with. So for me personally, I'm going to start about 100. If you are maybe a junior higher, or you might want to start at 80. I'd recommend, if you're making mistakes, go as low as 66. If you really feel like you know it, you can go up to 120 or even faster if you'd like. The biggest thing is that you always want to play at the tempo that you can play it perfectly. If you're making mistakes, that means you need to slow it down, even if it's a one-off, okay? Hold yourself accountable, and that's how you'll get better. So we're going to start here at 100. And so on. Okay, so we have a few different assignments in here. We have the chop builder with our slurs. We have the B flat major scale, arpeggio, and third scale. These are all meant to be played one after the other. So for an example, I'm going to turn on metronome about 120 right here. So I played that pretty perfectly, and I don't need to play this like 17 times today, but maybe I want to know and keep it better. So we could do B flat scale, and I'm going to write this down 120 so that I remember the next time I play that was the last place I started off on. Okay, let's try the groups of 3. Oh no, I made some mistakes right there. I got a little mixed up with the fingerings. What's the first thing I'm going to do? Go over the section that I worked on and slow the tempo down a bit. So we're going to slow it down to like 108. I'm going to start measure 2 and 3. That's where I made my mistake. That felt good. So I'm going to play it here again. I'll try to do it a few times to make sure I got it. Okay, that felt good. So let's play the whole thing. assuming I played the rest of it correctly, I could then write groups of 3. And I would put 108. And that's where I was. If I was looking at your lists of like where you practiced what the tempo markings were, it would make sense that not all of them are going to be at the same. And in fact, if they all are the same, you might be doing something wrong. So we always want to just make sure we do whatever exercise that we can at the appropriate tempo. These next few are a few of our harder ones. All of the eighth notes can be grouped in those 4s, and they can all be slurred, articulated different ways. I didn't mark them so that you could kind of do it however you felt. But for right now, let's slur technique builder number 1. We're slurring the eighth notes. And so I'm going to use an example of maybe going a little bit quicker. And for me, that felt pretty good, so I'm going to try pushing it up a little bit. I felt like I played that perfectly, so I'm going to try to make it a little bit harder for myself. Oh man, I'm killing it. Let's try it a little faster. So I felt like my tempo was maybe a little bit off right there, so maybe next time. I felt like 176 sounded good, so I don't need to practice this too much more today because I played it and it sounds great. So I'm going to say I was at 178. That's where I felt like I played it the best. And so now I know next where to start with next. If you ever make a mistake, go back to the measure exactly where you made the mistake. So let's say in this last measure right here where we go, I was having trouble with that. I couldn't quite play it right. This is where I'd go slowly, note by note. I always just want to make sure that I'm doing it right. I'm always playing the right notes. If I was making a mistake with just those first 2 notes, I would do this. And maybe mix up the rhythm. That's going to help my fingers get it down, and then eventually I can go. But the biggest thing that you want to make sure that you do when you're practicing with these is every exercise has a separate tempo marking. You have the tempo that you can play it perfectly at with no mistakes. There's no shame if you have one exercise at 66, another at 120, and another at 160. Or if all of your exercises are in like that 66 to 80 range, it's okay. It doesn't matter where you start. What matters is that you play it perfect at the beginning. That's our goal. That's what we're working towards. Nobody's going to know your tempos but me. And so make sure that you're just being honest and you're keeping yourself accountable. And if you have these separate tempos and you're marking them down, you're going to notice that the tempos are going to slowly go up as time goes on. Okay, so that's how you should be practicing with these assignments, and good luck out there.